Lesson 1. Religious Education and the Buddhist Teaching. A bird needs 2 wings in order to fly. If it possesses only 1 wing, it must remain on the ground and can never experience the joy of soaring high. We also need 2 wings, which may be called the wings of education. 1 wing is secular education, and the other is religious education. Without these 2 wings, we cannot hope to soar high into the fields of knowledge, because we have little or no spiritual training. Religious education is necessary, for it teaches us how to think and act in order to be good and happy. It helps us to understand the meaning of life and to adjust ourselves to its laws. True religion means living the best and highest life, getting the most out of life, which makes a person light-hearted and joyful all the time. This is the sort of religion which the Buddha taught. It is true that we must attend classes in order to study his teachings, but the principal thing is to live them in our daily life. The Buddha teaches his followers to do good, to make the best use of life, and tells them that his path leads to true happiness in this world and hereafter. Who was the Buddha? There are many legends about the Buddha, but the Buddha was so great that he had no need of legends to make him appear greater. He was the wisest teacher the world has ever seen, and his teachings given to men over 2,500 years are still helpful to us today. He did not claim to be God, nor was he any divine messenger. He clearly told us that if we listen carefully to his teaching and walk in his path, we can achieve for ourselves what he did for himself. Buddhism is truly a message of peace and happiness for everyone. Many of our brothers and sisters in the West are taking refuge in the great master who has guided the East for so many centuries. Adapted from Ernest Hunt, The Buddha and His Teachings. Dhammapada, verse 183. Not to do evil, to perform good, to purify one's mind, this is the teaching of the Buddhas.
Lesson 2. The Buddha's Birth and His Childhood, Paragraph 1. Over 2,500 years ago, the Sakyas were a proud clan of the Khatiyas, the warrior caste, living on the foothills of the Himalayas in modern Nepal. They were ruled by a wise and powerful king called Suddhodana, who founded his capital at Kapilavatthu. His wife was Queen Maya, daughter of the Kolyas. Paragraph 2. So far they were childless and were longing for a son to complete their royal happiness. One day, the queen realized that she would become a mother. According to their custom, she asked the king's permission to return to her parents' home in another city, Devadaha, for the childbirth. Paragraph 3. Midway the queen desired to rest for a while in Lumbini Park. A wonderful garden where flowers filled the air with their sweet odor, while swarms of bees and butterflies were flying around and birds of every color were singing as if they were getting ready to welcome the queen. As she was standing under a flowering sala tree, and catching hold of a branch in full bloom, she gave birth to a prince who would later become Buddha Gautama, the Enlightened One, the great master of gods and men. All expressed their delight to the queen and her noble baby prince. Heaven and earth rejoiced at the marvels. The memorable day was the full moon day of Vesak, May, in 623 BC, according to the inscription at Buddha Gaya. Paragraph 4, on the naming ceremony. Many learned Brahmins were invited to the palace. A wise hermit, Asita, told the king that 2 ways would open before the prince. He would either become a universal ruler or he would leave the world and become a Buddha. The sage named the baby Siddhartha, which means the one whose wish is fulfilled, or wish fulfilled. At first, the king was pleased to hear this, but he was later worried about the statement that the prince would renounce the world and become a homeless hermit. Paragraph 5. In the royal palace, however, delight was followed quickly by sorrow. For 7 days after the childbirth, Queen Maya suddenly died. Her younger sister, Pajapati Gautami, the second queen, became the prince's devoted foster mother, who brought him up with loving care. Paragraph 6. The little prince grew up to be a lovely character in spite of every luxury around him. He was kind, gentle, pure and very intelligent. He received an excellent education as a crown prince of the warrior caste. His education consisted not only of all the knowledge for the wise including the 4 Vedas, but also of all arts of warfare. The young prince amazed all his teachers because of his intelligence. He learnt everything in a very short time. To sum up, he was quite healthy, kind-hearted and skillful, but at the same time he was very thoughtful. Adapted from G. P. Malalasekara, The Buddha and His Teachings, Dhammapada verse 194, pleasant is the birth of the Buddha, pleasant is the preaching of the Dhamma, pleasant is peace and unity in the Sangha, the devotion of those who live in harmony is pleasant. Lesson 3. Prince Siddhartha's youth and his married life. Paragraph 1. A wonderful thing took place at a plowing festival in his childhood. It was an early spiritual experience which, later in his search for truth, served as a key to his enlightenment. Once on a spring plowing ceremony, the king took the prince to the field and placed him under the shade of a rose apple tree where he was watched by his nurses. Because the king himself took part in the plowing, the prince looked at his father driving a golden plow together with other nobles. But he also saw the oxen dragging their heavy yokes and many farmers sweating at their work, while the nurses ran away to join the crowd. He was left alone in the quiet. Though he was young in years, he was old in wisdom. He thought so deeply over the sight that he forgot everything around and developed a state of meditation to the great surprise of the nurses and his father. Paragraph 2. The king felt great pride in his son, but all the time he recalled the hermit's prophecy. Then he surrounded him with all pleasures and amusements and young playmates, carefully keeping away from him all knowledge of pain, sadness and death. Paragraph 3. When the prince was 16 years old, the king arranged for his son's marriage. According to their custom, a prince who desired to get married had to prove his strength and courage. Then the king invited other princes and nobles to meet his son in many contests, and Prince Siddhartha won victory in all of them. Among the beautiful ladies who attended the ceremony, he finally chose the fairest one, the country's beauty, his beautiful cousin, as his bride. She was Princess Yasodhara, daughter of King Supabutta, a brother of the late Queen Maya of the Kolyas. Paragraph 4. The king was pleased to see that if his son had home ties, such as a wife and children, he would not leave them, and then he would become a great king. The royal couple led a happy life in 3 palaces built for them, one for the hot season, one for the cold season and one for the rainy season. Around the palaces were parks of flowers, groves with fountains and especially lotus ponds. For nearly 13 years, they spent their prime of youth in these palaces, enjoying all worldly pleasures among skillful musicians, attractive dancing girls and a variety of delicious food. But the prince was never allowed to go out to see the world outside. The poor, the sick and the aged were kept away from his sight, and no one was allowed to talk anything sad before him. Paragraph 5. As time passed, however, the prince's thoughts returned to the problem of suffering. He had no sorrow of his own, but he felt pity for mankind and he tried to understand the true meaning of human life. Adapted from Narada Mahathera, Dhammapada verse 171, Come, behold this world, it is like a gaudy royal chariot, in which many fools sink down, but the wise have no attachment for it. Dhammapada verse 336, He who lives in the world, overcomes this base craving, from him sorrows fall away, like water drops from a lotus leaf. Lesson 4, Great Renunciation and Enlightenment, Nibbana, Paragraph 1. Soon the prince became bored of all royal amusements, and he was in search of mental peace. One day he desired to make a journey around the city. Necessary arrangements and decorations were made by order of the king so that the prince might be delighted. But on the very first day, he happened on an old man walking weakly. On the second day, he saw a sick man crying pitifully, and on the third day, a dead person carried by his relatives. The prince was deeply shocked by the fearful sights of old age, sickness, and death. His noble mind was terribly troubled by realizing that no one could escape those pains and sorrows. He returned to the palace with his heart full of sadness. On the fourth day, however, he was satisfied at the sight of a holy hermit with a bright and peaceful look. Paragraph 2. He kept on thinking that in spite of the royal comforts and his good health, he would someday suffer from sickness, old age, and death. He felt compassionate for all human beings who had to face these everlasting problems, and he decided to find a way out. His love of truth proved stronger than his affection for his family. Then on a full moon day, at midnight, he left his kingdom and renounced the world. Thus he became an ascetic in search of truth at the age of 29. It was called the Great Renunciation in 594 BC. Paragraph 3. The ascetic Gautama wandered about the valley of the Ganges, at first approaching famous teachers, Alara Kalama and Uddaka Ramapada, and following their teachings. But their methods did not lead to superknowledge or awakening, so he turned away from them. Next, he joined a group of 5 ascetics and practiced the most severe ways of life for 6 years. Because he gave up food, he grew thinner and thinner and his body lost all its strength. He underwent too much suffering, but still, he did not reach his goal. Then he gave up these extremes and followed a middle path. To restore his health, he accepted the milky rice offered by a young lady called Sujata, and then he sat cross-legged under the big Bodhi tree, the tree of enlightenment. He decided not to rise from his meditation until he gained wisdom. The Bodhisattva was so resolute in his great struggle for Buddhahood that no Mara nor the evil forces could break through his calm concentration. Paragraph 4. Finally, at midnight, he achieved the threefold knowledge, the knowledge of his own former births, the knowledge of other beings passing away and arising, and the knowledge of the total destruction of all impurities. He attained the freedom of mind and the freedom of wisdom and became the Buddha, the fully awakened one, the conqueror of the battle, who opened the door of deathlessness to all living beings, Nibbana. Adapted from Narada Mahathera and Malala Sekra. Dhammapada verses 153 to 154. Through many births I have wandered in the samsara round, seeking, but not finding the builder of the house, painful is birth again and again. O house builder, I have seen you. You shall build no house again. All your rafters are broken and your ridgepole is shattered. The mind at rest in Nibbana has attained the destruction of cravings. Lesson 5. The Brahma's Appeal to the Buddha, abridged, paragraph 1. On one occasion soon after his enlightenment, as the Buddha was deep in meditation under a Japla banyan tree, the following thought occurred to him: this Dhamma, which I have realized, is profound, difficult to see, difficult to comprehend, calm, exalted, beyond logic, subtle, understood only by wise. But these beings are attached to sensual pleasures, and delighted by sensual pleasures. This dependent arising is a subject which is hard to see. And this, too, is a matter hard to understand, that is, the calming of all the activities, the renunciation of all attachment, the destruction of craving, dispassion, stopping. Nibbana. If I were to teach this Dhamma, the others would not understand me. That would be a weariness to me. As the Buddha reflected thus, his mind was not inclined to teach the Dhamma. Paragraph 2. Then Brahma Sahampati read the thought of the Buddha, and fearing that the world might be destroyed without hearing the Dhamma, approached him and requested him to preach the Dhamma. O Lord, may the Lord teach the Dhamma. May the welfarer expound the Dhamma. There are beings with little dust in their eyes, who, not hearing the Dhamma, will fall away. But if they are learners of the Dhamma, they will understand the Dhamma. Paragraph 3. Further, he spoke in verse, in ancient times in Magadha. There has appeared an impure Dhamma thought out by stained minds. Open this door, O deathlessness, let them hear the Dhamma awakened by the stainless one, just as a man standing on the peak of a mountain might watch the people around, even so, O seer of all, O fair wisdom, ascending the palace of Dhamma, may the sorrowless one look down upon the people who are sunken in grief and overcome by birth and age. Rise, O hero, conqueror in the battle, leader of the caravan, free from debt, walk over the world, let the exalted one teach the Dhamma. There are those who will understand the Dhamma. Paragraph 4. And when the Brahma appealed to the Buddha for the third time, the Buddha, out of compassion for beings, surveyed the world with his Buddha vision. He saw beings with little dust in their eyes, with much dust in their eyes, with keen intellect and with dull intellect, with good character and with bad character, beings who are easy to teach and hard to teach, and few others, who, with fear, see evil and the world beyond. As in the pond of blue, red, or white lotuses, some lotuses are born in the water, grow in the water, do not rise above the water, but thrive under water. Some are born in the water, grow in the water, and reach the surface of the water, others are born in the water, grow in the water and stand rising out of the water, unstained by the water. Even so, in the world, he saw beings with little dust in their eyes, see evil and the world beyond, the same as above. Paragraph 5. Then he addressed the Brahma in verse, opened are the door of the deathless state, let those who hear give forth their confidence, thinking of weariness. O Brahma, I did not teach this sublime and excellent Dhamma for men. And the Brahma, thinking that he himself made the opportunity for the Lord to preach the Dhamma, saluted him and passing around him to the right, disappeared then and there. Excerpt from Majjhima Nikaya, number 26, Arya Pariyasana, the Aryan Quest. Dhammapada verse 182, hard is the attaining of the birth as a man, hard is the life of human beings, hard is the hearing of the sublime Dhamma, hard is the appearance of the Buddhas, Anguttara Nikaya 2, as a lotus, fair and lovely, by the water is not stained, by the world am I not stained, therefore, Brahman, am I a Buddha. Lesson 6, The Turning of the Dhamma Wheel, Paragraph 1, 2 months after his enlightenment, the Buddha gave his first discourse entitled The Turning of the Dhamma Wheel to the 5 ascetics, the Kandanas, his old companions, at the Deer Park, in Isipatana, near Benares. In this discourse, the Buddha said, avoiding the 2 extremes of indulgence in sense pleasures and self-mortification, the Tathagata has comprehended the middle path, which lead to calm, wisdom, enlightenment, nibbana. This is the very noble eightfold path, namely, right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Next, he taught them the 4 noble truths, suffering, dukkha. The cause of suffering, samadaya, the ceasing of suffering, nirodha, and the path leading to the ceasing of suffering, magga. The Venerable Kandana understood the Dhamma, and the stainless, dustless Dhamma vision arose in him. Thus, all that is subject to arising is subject to passing away. He became a Sotapanna, and the 5 ascetics asked the Buddha to receive them into his order. It was through the second sermon on the no-self quality that all of them attain arahantship. Paragraph 2, later, the Buddha taught the Dhamma to Yasa, a rich young man in Benares, and his 54 companions, who all became arahants. With the first 60 arahant disciples in the world, the Buddha founded his Sangha, and he said to them, I am freed from all fetters. Both human and divine, you are also freed from all fetters. Go forth, O bhikkhus, for the welfare of many, for the happiness of many, out of compassion for the world, for the good and welfare, and happiness of gods and men. Preach the Dhamma, perfect in the beginning, perfect in the middle, perfect in the end, both in the spirit and in the letter. Proclaim the holy life in all its fullness and purity. Mahavagga. With these words, he sent them into the world. He himself set out for Urovala, where he received 30 young nobles into the order and converted the 3 brothers of Kassapa, who were soon established the arahantship by means of the discourse on fire. Paragraph 3, Then the Buddha went to Rajagaha, to visit King Bimbisara. The king, on listening to the Dhamma, together with his attendants, obtained the fruit of the first path and formally offered the Buddha his bamboo grove, Velyavana, where the Buddha and the Sangha took up their residence for a long time. There, the 2 chief disciples, Sariputta and Moggallana, were received into the order. Next, the Buddha went to Kapilavatthu and received into the order his own son Rahula and his half-brother Nanda. From his native land, he returned to Rajagaha and converted the rich banker Anathapindika, who presented him the Jeta Grove, Jetavana. Paragraph 4, For 45 years, the Buddha traveled up and down the valley of the Ganges, throughout the kingdoms of Magadha and Kosala, northeast of India, teaching the Dhamma to all classes of men and women, kings and queens, nobles and Brahmins, merchants and workers, outcasts and beggars, without making any distinction between them. He did not recognize the social castes in ancient India, and the way he taught was open to all those who were willing to hear. He exhorted his disciples to tread the path themselves, for the Tathagatas are only teachers. Adapted from Narada Mahathra and W. Rahula, Dhammapada verse 273, the best of paths is the eightfold path, the best of truths are the four sayings, non-attachment is the best of states, the best of biped is the seeing one. Dhammapada verse 276, you must make an effort, the Tathagatas are only teachers, the meditative ones who practice the way, are freed from the bonds of Mara. Part 1, the conversion of the three-brother Kassapa. The three brothers Kassapa were fire-worshipping ascetics, each of whom lived separately with a great assembly. The Buddha first tamed the eldest brother, Uravela Kassapa, in his fire chamber, and then his brothers, following his example, asked the Buddha for ordination together with their pupils. It was thanks to the discourse on fire that those newly ordained monks attained sainthood, arahantship. Part 2, the discourse on fire, Didapariya Sutta. Paragraph 1, thus have I heard. The Blessed One was once staying at Gayasisa with 1,000 bhikkhus. There he addressed the bhikkhus, O bhikkhus, all is on fire. And what is all fire? Paragraph 2, the I, O bhikkhus, is on fire. Forms are on fire. Eye consciousness is on fire. Eye contact is on fire. Feeling which is pleasant or painful, or neither pleasant nor painful, arising from eye contact is on fire. With what is it burning? Burning with the fire of lust, the fire of hate, ignorance, birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So I declare, the ear, O bhikkhus, is on fire. Sounds are on fire. Ear consciousness is on fire. Ear contact is on fire. Feeling which is pleasant or painful, or neither pleasant nor painful, arising from ear contact is on fire. With what is it burning? Burning with the fire of lust, the fire of hate, ignorance, birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So I declare, the nose, O bhikkhus, is on fire. Smells are on fire. Nose consciousness is on fire. Nose contact is on fire. Feeling which is pleasant or painful, or neither pleasant nor painful, arising from nose contact is on fire. With what is it burning? Burning with the fire of lust, the fire of hate, ignorance, birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So I declare, the tongue, O bhikkhus, is on fire. Tastes are on fire. Tongue consciousness is on fire. Tongue contact is on fire. Feeling which is pleasant or painful, or neither pleasant nor painful, arising from tongue contact is on fire. With what is it burning? Burning with the fire of lust, the fire of hate, ignorance, birth, decay, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So I declare. Paragraph 1. Sariputta, also called Upatissa, and Moggallana, Kalita, were two young Brahmins, pupils of Sanjaya. Dissatisfied with his teaching, they left him and wandered in search of deathlessness from a new master. Paragraph 2. At that time, the Buddha sent forth the first 60 arahants to proclaim the Dhamma to the world. The arahant Asaji went on his round for alms in Rajagaha, where he met Sariputta, who was attracted by his calm appearance. After offering him the seat and water as the first duties of a pupil, Sariputta exchanged courteous greetings with the holy monk and said, "Venerable sir, calm and serene are your sense organs, clean and clear is the hue of your skin. For whose sake have you renounced the world? Whose doctrine do you profess?" The elder modestly replied, "There is, O friend, the great recluse, the son of the Sakyas, under that blessed one I have gone forth. It is his Dhamma that I profess. I am new to the training. I cannot explain the Dhamma in detail to you." Paragraph 3. But when Sariputta kept on requesting him to say much or little according to his ability, the elder uttered a 4-line stanza, skillfully summing up the essence of the Buddha's doctrine, the law of the dependent arising and the 4 noble truths, of all things that proceed from the cause, their cause the Tathagata has explained, and also their cessation. Thus teaches the great recluse. Paragraph 4. Sariputta was so enlightened that immediately on hearing the first 2 lines, he attained stream entrance, the first stage of sainthood. He showed deep gratitude to his new teacher, and returned to his friend Moggallana, who also became a stream entrant at the conclusion of the stanza. Then they went with their attendants to Velluvana to ask the Buddha for going forth. A fortnight later, when they became arahants, the Buddha granted them the rank of chief disciples with these words: "O monks, chief among my disciples who have won great wisdom is Sariputta, and chief among those who have achieved psychic power is Moggallana the Great." Adapted from the life and works by Sariputta Thera by the Most Venerable Dr. Thich Huyen Vai and Dhammapada Commentary and Buddhist Legends Volume 28 by Burlingame, Dhammapada verse 101, "Better than 1,000 verses with useless words, is one useful single line, by hearing which one is at peace." Dhammapada verse 102, "Should one recite 100 verses, with useless words, better is one single word of the Dhamma, by hearing which one is pacified."
Lesson 9. The Conversion of the Robber Angulimala Paragraph. 1. Angulimala was a bloodthirsty robber who caused great destruction in the kingdom of Kosala. Once the Lord returned from his alms round, he entered the highway where the robber lurked. Then the Lord performed such a wonderful psychic power that the robber, although hurrying with all his might, was unable to catch up with the Lord, who was walking at his ordinary pace. Then the robber stood still and said to the Lord, "Stand still, O recluse, stand still." "I stand still, Angulimala, you too, stand still." Paragraph 2. Amazed at the reply, the robber addressed the Lord in verse. "While walking, recluse, you say, 'I stand still,' and to me who stand still, you say that I am not standing still. Therefore, recluse, I ask you about this matter. How is it that you are standing still, but I am not standing still?" Angulimala, I am standing still, having given up the stick and the sword for all beings. But you are merciless to all beings. Therefore, I am standing still, and you are not standing still. Long have I revered the recluse, the great sage, who has entered the great forest. Having heard the Dhamma in a verse of yours, I will soon renounce evil. Paragraph 3. So saying, the robber hurled his sword and weapon down a cliff, into a pit. The robber honored the wayfarer's feet, and then and there he asked to go forth. The awakened one and compassionate great sage, who is the teacher of the world of gods and men, thereupon said to him, "Come, monk," and this alone sufficed to make him a monk. Paragraph 3. Then King Pasenadi Kosala, having drawn near, spoke to the Lord. "It is wonderful. Revered sir, it is marvelous, how the Lord tames and intamed, calms the uncalmed even without the stick or the sword." Paragraph 5. Then the elder Angulimala, living alone, diligent, resolute, soon by his superknowledge realized, here and now, the supreme goal of the Brahma faring, for the sake of which good youths rightly go forth from home into homeless life, and so he was one of the perfected ones. While experiencing the bliss of freedom, he uttered this solemn utterance. Dhammapada verse 172. He who was heedless before, but diligent afterward, illuminate this world like the moon, which is freed from a cloud. Dhammapada verse 173. He whose past evil deeds are covered by good deeds, illuminate this world like the moon freed from a cloud. Dhammapada verse 382. The young monk who devotes himself to the law of the Buddha illuminates the world like the moon freed from a cloud. Theragatha. Some are tamed by the stick or whips, but I was subdued without the staff, without the sword. By such a one, the Tathagata. Excerpt from Majjhima Nikaya No 86. A discourse with Angulimala and Psalms of the Brethren. Theragatha page 318 to 325. Lesson 10. Kasibharadvaja Suttas, paragraph 1. Thus have I heard. Once the master was staying among the Magadhans at Ekanala, the Brahmin village near Dakhinagiri. Then the Brahmin, farmer Bharadvaja, had in yoke 500 plows for the sowing time. Paragraph 2. Now, early one morning, the master, having dressed and taken his bowl and robe, approached the farmer at work. As it was the time of food distribution, the master drew near and stood at one side. Paragraph 3. As the Brahmin saw the master waiting for alms, he spoke thus to him. O recluse, I plow and I sow, and when I have plowed, I eat. You, O recluse, should plow and sow too, for having done so, you may eat. I too, O Brahmin, plow and sow, and having plowed and sown, I eat. But we do not see Master Gautama's yoke, or plowshare, or goad, or oxen, yet Master Gautama speaks so. Paragraph 4. Then the farmer addressed the master thus in verse. You profess to be a plowman, yet we do not see your plowing. Tell us what plowing is yours. Of that, we would like to learn from you. Paragraph 5. The master replied in verse. Confidence is the seed. Discipline is the rain. Wisdom is my yoke and plow. Modesty is my pole, mind the strap, and I have mindfulness for plowshare and goad. I am guarded in act and word, temperate in eating. With truth I clear the weeds, and bliss in my deliverance. Vigor, my team in yoke, carries me to the security of the bonds, and it goes on, without turning back. It goes where there is no suffering, and thus is the plowing done, and there comes the deathless fruit. Having plowed this plowing, one is freed from all sorrow. Paragraph 6. Thereupon, Brahmin Bharadvaja had a large copper bowl filled with milk rice and offered it to the master, saying, Let Master Gautama eat this milk rice. A plowman indeed is the master, since he plows a plowing for deathless fruit. The exalted one replied, 'Tis not mine to enjoy fair one from chanting hymns. 'Tis not the thing for seers, O Brahmin. The awakened ones reject such food. Where the Dhamma reigns, this is the livelihood. You must offer other food and drink to the stainless great sage of holy calm, for he is a field to man who desires to sow merits. Paragraph 7. Then Farmer Bharadvaja approached and fell with his head at the Exalted One's feet and cried, "It's amazing, Master Gautama, it's marvelous. Just as a man might set up a thing overturned, reveal what is hidden, or point out the way to be blind, bring a lamp into the darkness so that those with eyes might see forms. Even so, the Dhamma has been made clear in many figures by Master Gautama. I am going to Master Gautama for refuge, to the Dhamma, and the order of monks. May I receive the going forth in the presence of the Master Gautama. May I receive higher ordination." Paragraph 8. Now, not long after his ordination, Venerable Bharadvaja, dwelling alone, aloof, diligent, ardent, resolute, soon entered and abided in the supreme goal of the holy life, and by his super-knowledge did he realize it, here and now. So he became the worthy one. Sutta Nipada, Chapter Vapwas, Kudaka Nikaya. Dhammapada, verse 354. The gift of the law excels all gifts. The flavor of the law excels all flavors. Delight in the law excels all delights. The destruction of craving overcomes all suffering. Dhammapada, verse 356. Weeds ruin a field. Lust ruins mankind. Therefore, alms are given to those who are free from lust. Bear abundant fruit. Lesson 11 Part. The founding of the Sangha of Bhikkhun. The orders of nuns. Paragraph 1. Because of Elder Ananda's request, the devoted attendant and Queen Gautam, the Buddha founded the order of nuns. Just as he had granted the rank of the 2 chief disciples for the order of monks, he appointed 2 female chief disciples, Venerable Khema and Venerable Upalavana, for the order of nuns headed by Venerable Bhikkhuni Gautam. Paragraph 2. In the Therigatha appear several verses uttered by those famous female disciples who attained sainthood together with other Sakyan ladies. Part 2. The chief disciples among the 4 assemblies. A. Bhikkhus, monks. Chief disciples. Chief among my disciples, monks of long standing, is Anya Kondanya. Chief among those of great wisdom is Sariputta. Chief among those of psychic powers is Moggallana the Great. Chief among those of austerity is Kassapa the Great. Chief among those of divine vision is Anuruddha. Chief among those of a large following is Uruvela Kassapa. Chief among those of wide knowledge and good behavior is Ananda. Chief among those of good health is Bakula. Chief among my disciples, who know the rules by heart, is Upali. Chief among my disciples, who are Dhamma teachers, is Punna Mantanaputta. Chief among my disciples, who are admonishers of the monks, is Kapaina the Great. Chief among my disciples, who are admonishers of the nuns, is Nandaka. Chief among my disciples, who are anxious for training, is Rahula. Chief among my disciples, who live in peace and are worthy of offerings, is Subhuti. Chief among my disciples, who guard the sense doors, is Nanda. Bhikkhunars, chief women disciples, nuns. Chief among my women disciples, the nun of long standing, is great Pajapati, Gautam. Chief among my women disciples, the nun of great wisdom, is Khema. Chief among my women disciples, the nun of supernatural powers, is Upalavana. Chief among my women disciples, the nun of meditative powers, is Nanda. Chief among my women disciples, the nun of divine vision, is Sakula. Chief among Dhamma teachers is Dhammadina. Chief among those who have attained great supernatural powers is Bhadakachana. Chief among those who are adept in the rules is Patakara. Chief among my lay followers, Of almsgivers is Sudatta the householder, Anathapindika. Chief among Dhamma teachers is Sita of Machikasanda. Chief among those who win the 4 bases of sympathy is Hathaka of Alava. Chief among those who wait on the order is Ugata. Chief among those of unwavering faith is Sura Ambata. Chief among those who are liked by people is Vaka, the physician. D. Upasakas, chief lay followers women. Chief among my women disciples, of those who first took refuge in my teaching, is Sujata. Chief among those who wait on the order is Visakha, Megara's mother. Chief among those who live in kindness is Samavati. Chief among those of wide knowledge is Kujutara. Chief among those of meditative powers is Uttara. Chief among those of unwavering faith is Katyani. Anguttara Nikaya Darfishan, the Book of the Ones. Therigatha, the 33 gods, and the gods in other heavens, all they come forever under Mara's control. For all are bound by bonds of sense desire. On fire is all the world, and racked in flames. Ablaze is all the world. The heavens do quake. But that which quakes not, untrodden by the worldling's feet, where Mara comes not, nor has waygate, there my heart abides in blessed retreat.
Lesson 12. The Buddha's Parinibbana. Paragraph 1. At the age of 80, the Buddha, accompanied by a large assembly of monks, set out on a long journey from Gijakuta, the Vulture Peak, near Rajagaha, to many towns, cities, and villages where he preached the Dhamma, enlightening his disciples with various discourses, and emphasizing the fundamental doctrine of the Four Noble Truths. It is through not understanding the Four Noble Truths, O bhikkhus, that we have had to wander so long in this weary path of rebirth, both you and I. Paragraph 2. On the long way, while staying at numerous rest houses, halls, shrines, and groves, the Buddha held Dhamma talks with his great company, advising his pupils to be mindful and self-possessed in learning the threefold training. Such is right conduct, sila. Such is concentration, samadhi. And such is wisdom, panya. Paragraph 3. When they arrived in Vesali, a prosperous city, they stayed at Ambapali's mango grove, where the Buddha gave a lecture to the Likhavis and Ambapali, the courtesan, who later offered the Buddha and the Sangha her mango grove. In his last rain retreat in Baluva, a village near Vesali, sharp pains came upon the Exalted One, but he bore them with his strength without complaint. Paragraph 4. Very soon after his recovery, in his last instruction about the order, he addressed the Venerable Ananda. The Tathagata does not think that he should lead the order, or the order is dependent on him. Therefore, O Ananda, be lamps to yourselves. Be a refuge to yourselves. Go to no external refuge. Hold fast to the Dhamma as a lamp. Hold fast to the Dhamma as a refuge. Paragraph 5. And how, O Ananda, is a bhikkhu to be lamp to himself, a refuge to himself? Going to no external refuge, holding fast to the Dhamma as a lamp? Herein a bhikkhu lives diligent, mindful, and self-possessed, overcoming desire and grief in the world, reflecting on the body, feeling, mind, mental states, and mental objects. The Buddha indeed emphasizes the importance of personal striving for purification and freedom from suffering. Paragraph 6. Having passed from town to town, the Buddha and the order came to Pava and stayed at Kunda's mango grove, where they were entertained by the devout smith. Later, the Buddha said that his last meal, like the food offered him before his enlightenment, was of much greater fruit and much greater profit than any other. Paragraph 7. Then they moved on to the Sala grove of the Mallas in Kusinara, where a wandering ascetic, Subhata, approached them and requested the Buddha to clear his doubt about other religious teachers at that time. The Buddha spoke thus: In the Eightfold, path is not found, neither is there found the first samana, nor the second, nor the third, nor the fourth. Now in this doctrine and discipline, O Subhata, there is the noble eightfold path, and in it too are found the first, the second, the third, and the fourth samanas. The other teacher schools are empty of samanas. If, O Subhata, the disciples live rightly, the world would not be void of arahants. Void of true saints are the systems of the other teachers. But in this one, may the bhikkhus live the perfect life, so that the world would not be without saints. So the ascetic Subhata was the last disciple to be converted by the Exalted One, and he became one of the arahants soon after his ordination. Paragraph 8. At last, the Exalted One addressed the bhikkhus, saying his final exhortation, "Behold now, O bhikkhus, I exhort you. Subject to change are all component things. Strive on with diligence." Paragraph 9. Thus, at Kusinara, in the Sala Grove of the Malice, the final passing away of the Buddha took place. It was again the full moon day of Vesak in 543 BC. His body was cremated with great ceremony, and the relics were divided among Brahmins, kings, and nobles, and were then enshrined in 10 stupas. Paragraph 10. Today, Buddhists from all over the world often go on a pilgrimage to the 4 holy places: Lumbini in Nepal, the Buddha's birthplace, Buddha Gaya, where he attained supreme enlightenment; the Deer Park in Sarnath, near Benares, where he turned the Dhamma wheel; and Kusinara, where he passed away in the utter passing away, Parinibbana. Adapted from Mahaparinibbana Sutta, Digha Nikaya, number 16. Dhammapada verse 146. Why is laughter? Why is joy? When the world is ever burning, shrouded by darkness, do you not seek a light? Dhammapada, verse 236. Make an island to yourself. Strive quickly, be wise. When your impurities are removed, and you are free from passions, you shall go to the heavenly world of the holy. Dhammapada, verse 238. Make an island to yourself. Be diligent without delay. Be wise. When you are freed from stain and become passionless, you will not come again to birth and old age.
Extra Lesson 1. A short introduction to the Vietnam Buddhist Academy, VBA, the former Vietnam Institute of Advanced Buddhist Studies. The Vietnam Buddhist Academy, formerly named the Vietnam Institute of Advanced Buddhist Studies, was founded in 1984 in Ho Chi Minh City. The VBA leadership consists of: the Most Venerable Dr. Thich Minh Chow is the rector. The Most Venerable Thich Tien Shiel is the vice rector. The Venerable Dr. Thich Chon Tien is the vice rector. The Venerable Thich Joc Tuan is the vice rector. Mr. Tong Ho Kum is the vice rector. The Venerable Thich Dat Dao is the office chief. The Vietnam Buddhist Academy aims to train a new generation of well-qualified monks and nuns. After a 4-year course, graduate students can continue their postgraduate studies to become researchers at the Vietnam Research Institute, or they can teach at basic Buddhist schools and serve the Central Buddhist Sangha or their local Buddhist Sangha. Course I, attended by 60 students, was open from the end of 1984 to 1988. Course 2, attended by 100 students, was opened from the end of 1989 to 1992. Course 3, attended by 255 students, was opened from the end of 1993 to 1997. Course 4, attended by nearly 300 students, has been open since 1997. The monk and nun students belong to the 3 Buddhist schools: the Theravada, the School of the Elders; the Mahayana, the School of the Great Vehicle, or Developing Buddhism; and the Vietnam Mendicant Sect. During the 4 academic years, the students are instructed in both canonical subjects and non-canonical subjects. Besides, they practice mental development, Buddhist meditation, bhavana, under the most venerable rector's guidance. A. The canonical subjects are the original triple canon, Pali Tipitaka, and some of the basic Buddhist doctrines of the Theravada, the school of the elders, the Sarvastivada, the school of the pan-realists who accept the reality of all things, and the Mahayana, developing Buddhism. The Pali Tipitaka, the triple canon, or the three baskets in Pali, consists of 1. Sutta Pitaka, the basket of discourses, the 5 Nikaya. A. Digha Nikaya, the collection of the long dialogues. B. Majjhima Nikaya, the collection of the middle-length sayings. C. Samyutta Nikaya, the collection of the kind sayings. D. Anguttara Nikaya, the collection of the gradual sayings. E. Khuddaka Nikaya, the collection of the minor discourses. 2. Vinaya Pitaka, the basket of rules or a code of moral conduct, discipline. 3. Abhidhamma Pitaka, the basket of superdoctrine, composed of 7 treatises. The Pali Triple Canon of the Orthodox Theravada, or the Southern School of Buddhism, is kept intact in Sri Lanka as a national treasure. 2. Some basic doctrines of different Buddhist schools. 1. The Sarvastivada's treatises. Abhidhamma Kosa, Vibhasa, Mahavibhasa. 2. A number of the sutras, discourses, and the shastras, treatises of the Mahayana. Madhyanika, the teaching of the middle way. Mahaprajnaparamita Sutras, the great discourses on the perfect wisdom. Mahaparinirvana Sutra, the discourse on the great decease. Lankavatara Sutra, Sadharma Pundarika Sutra, the Lotus Sutra, or the discourse on the lotus flower of the wonderful law. Vajraprajnaparamita Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, or the discourse on the diamond of the perfect wisdom. 3. The Vijnanavada, the theory of the mind only. Vijnapiti-matra Sutra, treatise on the mind-only theory. B. The non-canonical subjects are History of Vietnam, History of Vietnam Civilization, History of Vietnam Literature and Composition, History of Vietnam Buddhism and World Buddhism, History of Religions, History of Buddhist Thought in India, Introduction to Philosophy and Philosophical Problems, Psychology, Sociology, Civics, Aesthetics, Management, Languages, Pali, Sanskrit, Lexical Chinese, Mandarin, Practical English, Buddhist technical terms in English. In addition to these subjects, there are extracurricular activities, such as reports on current activities of world Buddhism, Vietnamese culture, or some academic problems, and especially since 1993, Course 3, an English-speaking club has been opened under the auspices of the Most Venerable Rector to satisfy the students' fresh demands for practicing everyday dialogues about their institute, their class activities, their monastic life, or making short speeches on some Buddhist topics, for example, New Year's holidays at your pagoda, monastery, nunnery, the Buddha's birthday in your city, the rain retreat of monks and nuns in your country, a brief survey of Vietnam Buddhism and discussions. To conclude, the Vietnam Buddhist Academy, formerly the Vietnam Institute of Advanced Buddhist Studies, stands as a vital institution dedicated to the study, preservation, and propagation of Buddhist teachings within Vietnam and beyond. Through its comprehensive educational programs and commitment to academic excellence, the VPA plays a crucial role in nurturing future generations of Buddhist scholars and leaders, contributing significantly to the ongoing development and understanding of Buddhism in the modern world. Extra Lesson 2. The Vietnam Buddhist Research Institute, VBR. The Vietnam Buddhist Research Institute was founded in 1989 in Ho Chi Minh City. It undertakes the task of elucidating the Buddhist teachings, emphasizing creativity in the Dhamma propagation, following the social and scientific progress of our time. Moreover, it works to expand global Buddhist activities and facilitate cultural exchange among Buddhist communities worldwide. The VBR leadership consists of the Most Venerable Dr. Thich Minh Chau is the rector. The Most Venerable Thích Thiền Siu is the Vice Rector in charge of the Department of Vietnamese Buddhism. The Most Venerable Dr. Thích Thiền Chau at Trúc Buddhist Institute in Paris, France, is the Vice Rector in charge of World Buddhism. The Venerable Dr. Thích Chun Tien is the Vice Rector in charge of the Department of Translating and Publishing the Tipitaka, the Buddhist Triple Canon or the Three Baskets of Buddhist Holy Scriptures. The Venerable Dr. Thích Tri Siu is the Vice Rector in charge of the Department of Research and Translation. Mr. Vo Din Kung as Vice Rector in charge of the Press. The Department of Vietnamese Buddhism takes charge of the history of Vietnamese Buddhism, Vietnamese Buddhist literature, culture, architecture, and archaeology. The Department of World Buddhism is responsible for Buddhism in the Himalayan region, Southeast Asian region, East Asian region, European region, and American region. There are many other departments such as the Department of Buddhist Specialities dealing with Buddhist meditation, mental development, bhavana, psychology, logic, linguistics, and native medicine. The Department of Monastic Education, which takes charge of the training of monks and nuns at basic Buddhist schools and institutes of advanced Buddhist studies. And especially the Department of Translating and Publishing the Tipitaka, the Buddhist Triple Canon or the Three Baskets of Buddhist Holy Scriptures into Vietnamese. The great task of translating the Tipitaka from Pali, English, and Chinese into Vietnamese and compiling and publishing the Vietnamese Tipitaka has been underway since 1991. It will take about 2 decades to carry out the duty. During the last 10 years, many collections of the Pali Triple Canon such as Digha Nikaya, the collection of the long dialogues, 2 volumes, Majjhima Nikaya, the collection of the middle-length sayings, 3 volumes, Samyutta Nikaya, the collection of the kinder sayings, 5 volumes, Anguttara Nikaya, the collection of the gradual sayings, 5 volumes, Khuddaka Nikaya, the collection of the minor discourses, 15 volumes. These works was translated from the original Pali Canon to Vietnamese by the Most Venerable Dr. Thích Minh Chau, have been published side by side with many collections translated from the Chinese versions of the Agamas in Sanskrit, such as Digha Agama, the Madhyama Gama, the Samyutta Gama, the Ekottara Gama, etc., by the Most Venerable Thích Teng Tu and the Most Venerable Thích Thiền Siu. In short, the printing and publishing of the Vietnamese Triple Canon marks an important event in the history of Vietnamese Buddhism and the cultural life of our nation as well. Despite all difficulties in the present situation, both the Vietnam Buddhist Academy and the Vietnam Buddhist Research Institute make every effort to fulfill the assignment given by the Vietnam Buddhist Sangha. Therefore, they welcome all material and spiritual support from any individual or organization, Buddhist and non-Buddhist, at home and abroad. Dear friend, what is the Dhammapada?
It's a collection of 423 sayings of the Buddha in verse. It's one of the most important and interesting books of the Khuddaka Nikaya, minor discourses, and is spread throughout the Buddhist world.
Why is the Dhammapada so widely spread?
Because of its simplicity, purity, as well as its clear and direct teachings, it is a great source of inspiration to Buddhist thinkers. Each verse is a guideline to right living.
It's a wonderful thing I've heard from what you said. Please teach me some Dhammapada verses so that I can memorize them.
Yes, sure. Verse 194. Pleasant is the birth of the Buddha. Pleasant is the preaching of the law. Pleasant is peace and unity in the order. The devotion of those who live in harmony is pleasant. Verse 183. Not to do any evil, to cultivate good, to purify one's mind, this is the teaching of the Buddhas. Verse 354. The gift of the law excels all gifts. The taste of the law excels all tastes. The delight in the law excels all delights. The destruction of craving overcomes all sufferings.
About the verses you have recited, I just want to say, well done. I'm really impressed with the loveliness of these stanzas. I'll try to learn them by heart and recite them to my fellows. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your Dhamma talk.
Really? I'm glad to hear that. I'm sure you will soon enjoy reading the whole Dhammapada in English. A small tip is to remember to begin and end every meeting with the homage to the Lord in English or Pali, accompanied by the verse for the transfer of merits to all. May all these merits be transferred to all. May all living beings achieve the noble path.
Thank you so much. Goodbye and see you later.
Lesson Extra 5. Buddhism and Beauty. Professor J.D. Virasakara, Sri Lanka. Paragraph 1. With the doctrine of impermanence, suffering, and unsubstantiality, anicca, dukkha, anatta, in the forefront, is it possible to speak of a concept of beauty in Buddhism? Has it not often been suggested that Buddhism is a religion of pessimism, and that, with its doctrine of renunciation, Buddhism would have very little to do with notions of beauty? Although these remarks may at first appear to be very convincing, they are far from the truth, and are no more than mistaken generalizations. Paragraph 2. Let us first examine the doctrine of the three marks of existence: impermanence, suffering, and unsubstantiality. The Buddha taught it to his first 5 disciples and recorded it in the Anattalakkhana Sutta as follows: The body, rupa, O bhikkhus, is not the self, atta. If the body, O bhikkhus, were the self, the body would not be subject to disease, and we should be able to say, "Let my body be such and such a one. Let my body not be such and such a one." But since this body, O bhikkhus, is not the self, therefore the body is subject to disease, and we are not able to say, "Let my body be such and such a one. Let my body not be such and such a one." And he further said, "Now, what do you think, O bhikkhus, is the body permanent or perishable?" "It is perishable, Lord." "And that which is perishable, does that cause pain or joy?" "It causes pain, Lord." "And that which is perishable, painful, subject to change, is it possible to regard that in this way: this is mine, this am I, this is myself?" "That is impossible, Lord." Paragraph 3. In this manner, the Buddha admitted the presence of suffering in this world, and by a method of analysis, he pointed out to his disciples that attachment to things without a correct view as to their true nature is the cause of suffering. Impermanence and change are inherent in all things. This is their true nature, and this is the correct view. And as long as we are in variance with it, we are bound to run into conflicts. We cannot alter or control the nature of things. The result is, hope deferred makes the heart sick. The only solution lies in correcting our point of view. Paragraph 4. The Buddha has declared that the thirst for things begets sorrow. Tanha jayati soko. When we like persons or things, we wish that they belonged to us and were with us forever. We do not stop to think about their true nature, or, in our great enthusiasm, refuse to think about their true nature. We expect them to survive time, but devour everything. Kalo gasati batani. Youth must yield to old age, and the freshness of the morning dew disappears before the rising sun. Both are expressions of the natural law of change. Paragraph 5. When the Buddha lay on his deathbed at Kusinara, the Venerable Ananda, who had not yet gained true insight and become an arahant, was unable to bear the grief at the death of his master. So, the Buddha, in his admonition to the weeping Ananda, said, "Grieve not, O Ananda, lament not. Have I not already told you that from all good things we love and cherish, we would be separated, sooner or later, that they would change their nature and perish? How then can the Tathagata survive? That is not possible.
It is the philosophy that underlies the doctrine of the three marks of existence, or the Buddhist view of life and the world. All Buddhist values are based on this. The Buddha expected of his disciples, both the laity and the clergy, good conduct and good behavior, and decent standards of living in every way. He never lost sight of the fact that they had a part to play in both religion and society. With him, plain living did not amount to a degenerate human experience. In the Dhammacettiya Sutta of the Majjhima Nikaya, he clearly expressed what he thought of ascetic life as it was practiced in India at the time. There I see recluses and Brahmins become emaciated and lean, discolored and looking very pale. The veins have become visible all over their body. People will not be delighted to see them, I fear. In the Pali original of this, there is a phrase which is of interest to us. Na chakum bandati janasa dasanaya. This means that they do not catch the eye of the onlooker. Here we have one definite notion of beauty. An object of beauty is something which we are pleased to see. Hence we get the term pasadika, pleasant or pleasing, used over and over again concerning the dress and demeanor of the Buddhist monk. Of personal cleanliness, decency, and decorum, the Buddha spoke in praise, not only for their own sake, but also because of their social implications. Paragraph 7. Among the regulations governing monastic life in Buddhism, many instructions bear testimony to this. Healthy living has been the sine qua non of Buddhism. Aroja parama labha, freedom from disease, the Buddha said, is the greatest asset. This attitude also results in creating an environment which is aesthetically pleasing. And the following passage from the Mahavagga of the Vinaya Pitaka clearly illustrates that the simple life which the Buddha advocated was not without standards. If there are cobwebs in the vihara, the place of residence, let him remove them as soon as he sees them. Let him wipe off the casements and the corners of the room. If a wall that is coated with red chalk is dirty, let him moisten the mop, wring it out, and scour the wall. If the floor is coated black and dirty, let him sprinkle it with water and scrub it so that the vihara may not become dusty. Let him heap up the sweepings and cast them aside. Let him bask the carpet in the sun, clean it, dust it, take it back, and spread it out as it was spread before. Paragraph 8. Thus, we see that the Buddha was no ascetic who attempted to elevate his mind by resorting to forms of conduct which are repulsive and debasing. However, the Buddha maintained that beauty, if one does not understand the true nature of the objects of beauty, may lead to grief and disappointment. It distorts values and upsets the standards of judgment. When beauty is limited to persons and things, greed and pride are the lot of those who possess them. If such things are not common and are not easily obtained, a man may be called upon to engage himself in eternal struggle to safeguard his exclusive possessions. On the other hand, those who have set unlimited values on the coveted objects of beauty, but are not fortunate enough to possess them, will need great strength and courage to resist their feelings of jealousy and enmity towards those who have them. Paragraph 9. Here we are reminded of the story of the Venerable Paka in the Theragatha. One day, going to the village for alms, he sat down beneath a tree. Then a kite, seizing some flesh, flew up into the sky. Many kites were making him drop the meat. Another kite grabbed the fallen flesh and was plundered by another. And the bhikkhu thought, just like that, meat is worldly desires, common to all, full of pain and woe. And reflecting hereon and how they were impermanent and so on, he carried out his mission, sat down for his afternoon rest, and, expanding insight, won arahantship. Paragraph 10. The Buddha does not avoid objects of beauty, nor does he run away from them. He only refrains from making them the basis for strong and individual likes and dislikes. Whatever there is in the world, pleasant and lovable, we are attached to them, and we develop a dislike towards their opposites. Placed in this philosophical setting, the Buddhist recognizes beauty where the senses can perceive it. But in beauty, he also sees its change and destruction. He remembers what the Buddha said with regard to all component things, that they come into being, undergo change, and are destroyed. Therefore, the wise man acquires a great depth of vision. His admiration is not colored by a greed for acquisition and possession. The disciples of the Buddha understood this and proved it in their own lives. The Venerable Sabakaka, who, taking from the Buddha an exercise for spiritual culture, went to the Lonagiri Vihara on the banks of Ajakarani. There is beauty all around him, and the peace of the place seems to have satisfied him so much that after his enlightenment, he decided to make it his permanent abode. His heart is filled with joy as he describes the beauty of the place, but not what a remarkable sense of detachment he displays. When I see the crane, her clear, bright wings, outstretched in fear to flee the black storm cloud, a shelter seeking to provide a safe shelter, then doth the river Ajakarani give joy to me. Who does not love to see on either bank clustered rose apple trees in a fairy array, behind the great cave of my hermitage, or hear the soft croak of the frogs, well rid of their undying mortal foes, proclaim, not from the mountain streams, it's time today to flit. Safe is the Ajakarani, she brings us luck. Here is it good to be. In the enjoyment of the beauty, the Venerable Sabakaka is not agitated. What needs to ruffle him and disturb his peace? There is nothing that he is in danger of losing, and nothing that he needs to jealously guard. Paragraph 12. Herein, the mind is freed from pettiness and strife, and man finds contentment and rest. The Venerable Kassapa the Great reiterates the same with great conviction when he says, those upland glades are delightful to the soul, where the kareri spreads its widening wreaths, where sound the trumpet calls of elephants. Those are the braes wherein my soul delights. Those rocky heights with a hue of dark blue clouds, where lies embosomed many a shining tarn of crystal clear, cool waters, and where slopes the herds of Indra cover and bedeck. Here is enough for me who fain would dwell in meditation, rapt, mindful, and tense. Paragraph 13. As we have already stated earlier, the Buddhist does not build a wall around himself to shut out the world of sense experience. He remains within it. Does not the Venerable Kaludayi, who describes the beauty of the season, speak like a poet or an artist? Now crimson glow the trees, dear Lord, and cast their ancient foliage in quest of fruit. Like crests of flame, they shine irradiant, and rich in hope, great hero is the hour. Verdure and blossom time in every tree, wherever we look, delightful to the eye, and every quarter breathing fragrant airs, while petals fall, yearning comes for fruit. Paragraph 14. In him, it is not a mere passive eye that only records what is at work, but also a heart that responds and reacts. But he does so with understanding and judgment. And this philosophical attitude of the Buddhist to beauty may be best summed up in the following words of the Japanese poet who sang, on Mount Yoshino, each returning year, how beautiful the cherries blossom gay. Split the tree open wide and then draw near. Tell me where the flower is now, I pray. This is the philosophy of change and continuity.